don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
This famous American comedian has had enough of woke culture and decided to call them out. He's been very outspoken about it, sharing strong opinions on the topic.
But in today's world, when truth conflicts with narrative, it's the truth that has to apologize. Being woke is like a magic moral time machine where you judge everybody against what you imagine you would have done in 1066 and you always win.
Woke culture is about noticing and fixing social injustices related to race, gender, and identity. People who support it try to challenge unfair systems and promote fairness. However, this is a sensitive and controversial topic because it deals with long-standing issues and often sparks debates about whether it's making things better or just going too far. Bill Maher, a well-known comedian, writer, and political commentator, didn't hold back on his thoughts about woke culture during his appearance on *The View Star. His comments were so strong that Whoopi Goldberg seemed ready to jump in and share her own take on the controversy.
Defend that on the other side very easily.
But before we go, I want to say...
No, we're not going anywhere.
No. Okay.
Later in this video, you'll see how Bill Maher completely took down woke culture with his arguments. But before diving into his critique, he pointed out something important. The word *woke* itself can be confusing and even trigger strong reactions. Before anything else, Bill made sure to clear that up, and here's what he had to say.
It's a great thing. Alert to injustice. Who's not for that? But words do migrate. Now, I'll use any term you want, because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't want to call it the super far left, but don't tell me the left had...
Super far right. We talked about the left. Well, then
okay, but we talked about that.
The topic of *woke* culture is sensitive and controversial, making it hard to discuss without backlash. Even Bill Maher, who's known for his bold opinions, approaches it carefully. At times, it almost seems like he's trying to avoid getting too deep into the debate.
So, the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words migrate.
Why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice. Who's not for that? But words do migrate. Now, I'll use any term you want, because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't want to call it the super far left, but don't tell me the left had...
the super far right. We talked about the left. Well, then
okay, but we talked about that. I mean, I think we agree about the danger of the super far.
In another interview, Bill Maher didn't hold back when discussing the word *woke star. In fact, he took it a step further by defining *wokeness* and breaking down exactly what it means.
Define wokeness, because I hear people use the term all the time. They mean something different to everybody.
Well, again, I think it's this collection of ideas that are not building on liberalism, but very often undoing it. I mean, 5 years ago, Abraham Lincoln was not a controversial figure among liberals. We liked him. Now they take his name off schools and tear down his statues. Really? Lincoln isn't good enough for you? 5-10 years ago, bedrock liberalism was we are striving to be a colorblind society where we don't see race. Of course, we see it, but it doesn't matter. That's not what woke is. Woke is something very different. It's identity politics. We see it all the time. It's always the most important thing. I don't think that's liberalism. I mean, I could mention so many issues like...
But even though the word *woke* stirs up strong reactions, Bill Maher believes the real problem is how the left has changed from its original values. In a bold statement, he shares what he sees as the biggest threat to society, and it goes far beyond just the term *left star.
Okay, but we talked about that. I mean, I think we agree about the danger of the super far right, and I can't say it enough. I think they're the bigger threat.
In this clip, Bill acknowledges that the far right is a major and dangerous threat. But of course, the conversation didn't stop there. This is where things take a darker turn.
But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a joke. But,
Too dark.
There was an awkward silence after he said that. It might have sounded like a dark joke, but Bill stood by his words, insisting it was true and didn't weaken his point. If you know Bill Maher, you can tell he was holding back a bit in this interview. In the past, He has openly criticized woke culture without hesitation. For example, during his interview with Ron DeSantis on September 30, 2023, Bill didn't hold back at all when sharing his thoughts on wokeness.
Woke too. That's why I have trouble with friends in Hollywood. I'm an old school liberal, and that's a whole different thing than woke. And I'm sympathetic to you because, you very often take on an issue where I feel like, yeah, there is crazy stuff going on in schools. There is crazy stuff. But the problem is, it doesn't resonate with a lot of people who don't see it for whatever reason. And so they're like, why is this guy picking a fight with Mickey Mouse? Right?
Well, they picked a fight with us. But, well, listen, so first of all, I do a lot more than just that. I think that's a little bit of a caricature. But this idea of ideology corrupting institutions, I see it in Los Angeles with the amount of crime that's here and the homelessness. There are people that commit crimes who are not prosecuted like they would be in Florida. Our state's crime rate's at a 50-year low. You elect these people like Gascon and what they did in San Francisco. Yeah. You can break into somebody's house or mug somebody and you don't end up going to jail. That doesn't work, but that's driven by ideology. So it's not just we're having just a philosophical debate. I think woke ideology has corrupted institutions. No. I think it's corrupted things like the CDC with how they handled COVID with the nonsense that they did. So it's a...
Bill has always been direct about his views on woke culture. As expected, he doesn't hold back or sugarcoat his opinions, especially on his show Real Time with Bill Maher. He argues that in today's society, there is a major gap between objective truth and the narrative that woke culture tries to push. According to him, when these two clash, truth often gets sidelined. He believes woke culture is more focused on promoting a specific agenda, even if that means ignoring or distorting facts. Now, woke culture is being portrayed as something extreme. But when Bill was asked about terrorism and Hamas, his response was truly eye-opening.
Let me tell you, if you're for Hamas, just live in Gaza for a day. And I'm not talking about while the war is on. I mean before the war. Trust me, you would go running and screaming and begging to live in Tel Aviv.
Bill argues that many people who support Hamas may not fully understand what life is like under their rule. He suggests that if they experienced the harsh realities of Gaza firsthand, they might rethink their stance and appreciate the freedoms available in Tel Aviv. Then, in an unexpected statement, Bill shares his take on how to end the war in Gaza. However, not everyone agrees with his solution.
Of course, everybody is, but that's what happens in a war. Here's a way to stop that. Stop attacking Israel.
Only 2 women clapped, while the other 3 stayed quiet. This clearly shows they don't agree with the idea that Israel should stop being attacked. After that, Whoopi spoke up, saying that the media is only showing certain parts of what's really happening in the world.
For you, because I don't know if you've noticed what I've noticed, but I find that oftentimes when I'm watching the news, I'm only getting portions, because one of the things that happens, I was listening to you talk about, the kids that had the Hamas flags. It reminded me of when people were saying Antifa is there, and doing it. So bad players show up and make stuff happen. But do you find that the view that we're being shown seems to be meant to guide us into thinking about people one way, when in fact it may be a much bigger conversation?
In her opinion, the media shows only one side of the story, making us think in a way they want. Bill and Whoopi eventually agreed that the news is misleading and lying to us. But Bill went even further and started making fun of the media.
Of course, the media is always going to just chase what is interesting to watch. I used to be able to watch the nightly news, for example. I can't do it. First of all, it should be called, here's some video we found that's fun to watch. That's not the news. Like anything that happens on a plane. Like the plane skidded off the runway, so what? Call me when anybody died, and it's not, the door fell off. Okay. I'm
He
sorry.
criticized the media, saying they only report misleading stories, like the one about a plane where the door fell off but no one got hurt. He described the news as something fun to watch, instead of something that should give accurate information.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And then by the time you get to the last segment, it's just, the bears in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
It's just nothing.
Yeah.
And it's narrative over truth.
Narrative over truth is a strong statement. Because of this, Bill says it affects how he interacts with people who watch the news. For some reason, he finds it hard to trust their perspective and take their opinions seriously.
See, I think we're tribal now, which is not good. And I think there's 4 tribes. Basically, there's old school liberals, which I would mostly count myself as, old school conservatives. There's still some of those left.
Did Bill really change from an old school liberal like he says? For years, he kept this image. But during this show, a reminder slips into the conversation that shows he might not be who he claims. So, how does Bill deal with that? We'll get to that later. For now, Bill began by talking about homelessness, comparing how liberals respond to it versus the woke. He then shows the differences between the two.
Okay, the liberal view of that was for compassion's sake. We're the liberals, we're compassion. Let's get these people off the street. That's not the view of the, whatever word we're going to come up with for this. Their view of the homeless is they're an endangered species that needs to be protected in their natural habitat, living their best life under a bridge.
That shows how liberals and woke people approach social issues in different ways, giving us a look into each one's philosophy. Now, back to the question of whether Bill really changed or not. What he said about it was spot on.
That to me is crazy. That's the kind of things, I haven't changed on that. I still think we should get these people off the street. That's the compassion sake. So I didn't change, they changed, and there's lots of examples of that.
Bill has always been open and honest with his opinions, not afraid of any hate he might get. His comments on woke culture and the media are always straight to the point and unfiltered. This makes him a unique commentator and comedian, setting him apart from others with his approach. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you're still watching, don't forget to subscribe. And if you liked this one, I'm sure you'll like this one too. See you later.